like you might not even realise it, but when you go into a charity shop, have a little sniff next time and see if you can tell that, yeah, charity shop smell. I really don't know what I'm doing. I haven't looked at any videos or anything. I've just kind of like played around and made a real mess and potentially lost a decent chunk of the yarn from the first sweater. Hello and welcome to my second knitting podcast. My name is Sian, and in case you missed the first one, I live in Cardiff in Wales, and this is my wonderful dog Charlie. It's actually been about a month, so I've actually got quite a lot of progress, so please don't think I'm that quick at knitting, because I'm really not. I'm a pretty slow knitter. Oh yes, and Charlie's bored of the knitting chat already. The first project is this top here, my finished item. Charlie is obscuring quite a chunk of it, and so is my ridiculously long hair, so I will insert some pictures or videos of it, but I absolutely love it. This is the Fields of Gold pattern by Isabella Clark, and I used Nutiden yarn. I really should have asked my husband to double check how to pronounce that. But anyway, Nutiden yarn in the colourway Örnska, which in Swedish translates in English to wish. Could have probably worded that a little smoother. But anyway, yeah, the English translation is wish. It's a colourway that, to be quite honest, in a light like this, just looks... I mean, it's not a bad colour right now. It just looks very natural and it's very subtle and you can't really see the colour differences. But the top looks really, really good in sunlight. Unfortunately, I live in Wales and we have grey skies today. There is not a single speck of blue. So I'm not able to show you what this looks like in natural sunlight. Hopefully at some point I'll get a picture in the sun. You never know. It can't be cloudy all day every day. Sometimes it rains. I absolutely loved knitting this pattern. It only took me about a month to knit, which is really quick for me. Admittedly, it is worsted weight yarn, so that's helped. And I've been doing everything I've been knitting before this has been like fingering weight over the summer. So it's felt really chunky and a really big difference and a really big change to what I was knitting before. So a few points I wanted to make that I didn't make in the last video. I forgot to mention that actually for these like leaf, what did we agree they were called? Wheatgrass kernels? For these wheatgrass kernels, for some of them I actually forgot to, so the way you do it is you go into a stitch and you basically yarn over 3 times. And then you have like, and then you pull through this loop. That's not a very good way of explaining it. But anyway, you yarn over 3 times. And then on the second, and then you knit round. And then on the next round, you take your 3 yarn overs off of the needle. And that creates the loop that you then, a few rows later, knit up into another knit. It's made sense in my head. I don't know if it's made sense to describe it, but I can't think of a better way to describe it, so sorry. But anyway, there's a few times when I forgot to do the yarn over 3 times to create the loop, but I found that because the way you create the yarn over is you go through the middle of a stitch, yarn over 3 times and then pull it through. It's not actually part of a stitch itself. I found it was easy enough just to like add yarn behind the knitting into like the back of the knitting and then just like pull through the yarn and then knit it into the stitch above that it was meant to be knit into and then just tie off the ends on the back. I don't know if that's made sense. If I listen back to this and it sounds like it's made absolutely no sense, I will cut it out. But yeah, potentially no one will hear about this, but that is what I've done. I still absolutely love the pattern. There were a few comments I wanted to make though. Yeah, because your beginning of round is actually right in the middle of the like the central motif itself, it means that obviously, like, when I'm casting, you know, when you cast off and you go all the way round, there'll be a bit of a, like, jump. Like, it will be slightly higher where you finish to where you start. I don't know why. I don't know if that's because basically knitting it around is helical knitting and that's just how it works. I don't know if there's a way to avoid that. If there is, please do let me know in the comments below. I'd be very interested to hear. But anyway, that jump I thought would be very obvious because it's in the middle of the knitting. But I managed to, I don't know, weave in my ends quite tightly, so it kind of like, that jump wasn't really visible, it kind of like compressed it. So it doesn't actually look too bad at all in the middle. I was a bit worried about that. Not like super worried, it would have been fine, but you know, it's nicer when that's on the side, so it's less visible and it's not right in the middle of the jumper. Admittedly, it's right at the bottom in the middle of the jumper. No one else but me is going to look at it, but I will know. So yeah, I've redone the neckline after having a wonky neckline last time. I think it looks much better now, much nicer. And the main complaint I have with the fit isn't a pattern thing, it's a me thing. So when I did my gauge swatch, I got gauge, but I didn't get row, like with the width of the stitches, but I didn't get row gauge. My row gauge was quite far off. My rows were a lot smaller than the ones recommended in the pattern, but I just carried on. And subsequently, and I don't mind the way this looks, but subsequently the sleeves do look different on this than on the finished photos of Isabella Clarke's one. Her sleeves are baggier, and so not baggy, but they're slightly looser, so because of that she does add decreases into her sleeve pattern. However, and I haven't, because because you can see they're tight on me. They're not like compression tight. I'd say there's probably like no ease, rather than negative ease. So it's not tight, but it's also not loose, and I couldn't do any decreases, so I just didn't bother. I also decided that I wanted them elbow length. You'll see it's slightly shy of the elbow. That's a me problem again. This happens every single time I knit something, and I should know better. But I'll knit it to the length I think I want, and then I'll block it. And to be honest, quite often I will block sleeves and then finish them off afterwards. But I don't do that with this one for some reason. I just wanted to get it finished. So I did the ribbing, cast off, blocked it, and then I was like, and then with wear, I don't know why, but like, when you first put something on, it will fit perfectly lengthwise when it comes to sleeves, but with wear it kind of like shrinks a little bit. I don't know why, but I do know this is a common thing, and I should know better by now. But anyway, so yeah, my sleeves are a little shorter than I wanted. I wanted it coming right up to the elbow. Not a big deal though. It's not a big enough deal for me to rip back and redo it. Yeah, so I'm happy. There was one thing I was a bit worried about. When I was knitting, and it blocked out fine, so this isn't actually an issue, but when I was knitting the top of the shoulder, right at the start, it did kind of like almost have a little bit of like it looked like it was a bit like a peak. Like, I guess the way I can sort of describe it, though it's not exactly the same, is when you knit a hat and you've got like that little like bit at the back, like the little like peak bit at the back that isn't like tight to your head. That's kind of, I guess, the best way of describing it. But I worried, and then I looked in the finished photos and I noticed that in Isabella's photos she had a tiny little like bit of a peak in hers as well, actually, even after like blocking the finished photos, and I was worried I'd have that a little bit, but I don't. It blocked out and it's fine. Completely relax the stitches. Yeah, and yeah, this blocked out nicely. What I would say is, obviously it's a worsted weight and it's like a proper wool, so it's not drapey at all. Like, I've got a top on underneath, by the way. I'm not flashing anyone, don't worry. You can see it's just not like flowy and drapey, but I wasn't expecting it to be. That's not what this yarn is for. I do love it. The only thing is, and I don't know how, I'm going to take this top off and change as soon as I've finished filming this, because it is itchy. It's really itchy. Sorry about that interruption, that was my husband. Okay, so I blocked this and I was super excited. I took it off the blocking mat in the morning, put it on immediately to wear to work, and it was so itchy. I just immediately had to take it off. I don't know, to be honest, how I'm managing to wear it today. I think maybe just because I'm determined to show it off. But yeah, so I put a top on underneath and then put this on top, and as long as it isn't directly touching my skin, it's absolutely fine. But I'm kind of like semi-sensitive to wool. I find I'm fine with merino, cashmere and mohair, you know, the fancy ones. But I find a lot of British wool very itchy. I've used several British wools in various different capacities, and I find them quite itchy. Sometimes it's fine, but a lot of the time it's not. And I guess now I find at least this species, I wanted to say brand of Swedish sheep, but that's not right, is it? This species? Oh my god, why can't I think of the word? Do you ever have that thing when like you just can't think? Breed! The word is breed. Come on, John. Oh, sorry. So I find this breed of Swedish sheep itchy, but that's fine. I'm used to that. I don't mind wearing a layer underneath. I will insert pictures, video, whatever I'm able to get hold of this, because it is a beautiful finished object and I do really love it, despite it being a little bit itchy, but that's not a deal breaker for me. So yeah, my first finished object, and it only took me a month. I flew through it. That's so quick for me. I don't think before this I've knit a jumper in less than 3 months. So yeah, admittedly I appreciate it's not long sleeves and it's cropped and it's worsted weight, but I'm proud of myself. Even if everyone else is looking at me like, yeah, you're actually a slow knitter and I could knit that in like 2 weeks. I don't care. I can't. I'm pleased with what I've achieved. So yeah, my first finished object. So this is my first whip. It's one I've been working on for my mum. It's the cardigan I mentioned in the previous video, and I've made pretty good progress. I took this with me to Liverpool. I went to Liverpool for a conference, and so there was a lot of train rides. It took like 4.5 hours to get there, and then it was meant to take about 4.5 hours to get back, but with delays it ended up taking like 5.5 hours. So I got to do a good I got a good like chunk of knitting done whilst on the train, and also a bit while I was there, and I've been working on it. This is the project I've been taking into work every day and working on at lunchtimes, and it's the Malabrigo yarn, but here it is. So it does, I appreciate, look quite small, but it's garter, so I'm assuming it will stretch and block out. This is the back panel. It's a really interesting construction. So you start by knitting this bit here. You knit it obviously like down this way, and I think it was every 12 rows, you will, I don't know if you can see, I might take a photo so it's clearer, but you'll like knit most of the way down, then turn the yarn, turn the work and knit back, so that you get some increasing across the bottom. So you can see it's wider along the bottom than it is along the top. It's really cool. What I am really enjoying is the construction. I've not constructed anything like this before. I don't know if it's a common construction or not, but it's certainly been a lot of fun to knit. Also, lots of people have been asking questions when I've been knitting on the train, so that's nice. It's nice to be able to sit and talk about knitting. And yeah, so you can see it's really stretchy, so I'm assuming that it doesn't matter that it looks like it's kind of like a child size at the moment. It will really stretch out. I need to block it to see. I'm seeing my mum in a couple of weeks' time, and so I want to have this blocked, and I want to finish for the front of the cardigan, at least one side of the front of the cardigan, and have that blocked as well, so I can try them both on her and see how the sizing is going. So I am now working on one half of the front of the cardigan. Again, it's a really interesting construction, right? You've got these like little segments here that you knit back and forth on, and now I'm just knitting straight up. I've done increasing here and now I'm going to be knitting up until the underarm, and then I'll decrease and carry on. Again, it looks really small, but I'm assuming it will stretch out. I hope it will stretch out anyway. But yeah, that's about it for this project. There's not too much to talk about at the moment. I haven't had any massive issues. The only thing is, I think this like increasing for just under the arm is pretty severe. I hope that kind of like, I don't know, shallows up. You know what I mean? The angle gets a bit shallower with blocking, because it does seem like, I don't know, no one's body really goes out like that, but it's exactly the same for the underarms. Again, quite a like severe increase. So yeah, I'll just work on that with the blocking and see how that looks. But I'll probably have more of an update after I've tried it on Mum. And so I need to get this done by Christmas. So my aim is to get both the front panels done by December, and then in December to get the sleeves done, and that should be absolutely fine. It will have a couple of buttons on it, but my mum is going to make the buttons herself, and so I don't need to find any buttons and sew them on. I'm just going to give it to her without the buttons, and she'll add them later. So the next project I'm going to discuss with you is a new cast on. Yes, I was complaining about having too many whips in the last video, and I have subsequently cast on 2, but I have also cast this one off, so, you know, could be worse, could be better, I'll give you that, but it could also be worse. Anyway, but the reason I ended up starting this one is because I got the yarn from my husband for my birthday, which was last month, and I had a migraine. I get these quite a lot, and sometimes I'm able to knit, sometimes they're so bad I can't knit, but it wasn't too bad a migraine. So I was in bed and I was just so bored, and I wanted to do some knitting, but I didn't want to. I've been concentrating on prioritising the cardigan for my mum, but that's pretty much the only thing I had been knitting on for about a week, and so I was sick of it and I needed to cast on something else. And this one has so many like pretty colours. I'll put a photo up of the yarn. I can't show it all to you because I've caked it up and I've used up some of the colours already, but I'll show you a picture, and it's just so bright and colourful, and colours make me happy. So these yarns are your typical 75% merino, 25% nylon sock blend. I'm not sure what they're classed as, but to me they look like light fingering weight, so they're quite fine, like quite a thin yarn, and they're from Harbour Yarns. It's an indie dyer, Harbour Yarns, and the dyer has created the pattern and sells like kits to go with it, so you can either buy some of the colours for the kit or like the whole kit. And I, or my husband I guess, ended up just getting like the whole kit, and it's really pretty yarn, and I saw this pattern and I just fell in love with it. It's just so like colourful, and it's just so me, like lots of colour but also kind of like an interesting design. So it is pencils. This is obviously not blocked or anything, so hopefully I'll get some better pictures when I'm done. But yeah, so you've got pencils and it's like a rainbow of colours. You get, I think it's 16 colours, 2 lots of 8 colours, like 2 lots of 8 colour mini skein packs, and then you also get your wood colour and then your background colour. So the mini skeins are 10 gram skeins, and then for the 2 main colours you get 2 50-gram skeins. So far I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on my 6th colour, so I'm close-ish to halfway. I'm definitely maybe like a third of the way, and I've still got so much of both of the main colours left. I also have a lot of each of these individual colours left. I think I probably have at least, I haven't weighed them yet, but I think I've probably got about half of all the colours. I think I probably only used about 5 grams for each colour. in this scarf. I've been slightly staggering the pencils, which is what the pattern says as well. Although, to be honest, I haven't been following exactly where the pencils are staggered on the pattern. I've just been like, oh, I fancy this pencil being a bit further to the left, or I fancy this pencil being a bit further to the right. So each colour has used a slightly different amount of yarn. I also, I don't think a single pencil, I think one pencil I've done without any mistakes. All the other pencils have had slight mistakes in them, but I don't think it's big enough to really notice. So I've just kind of ignored it, and I also, there are little details that I really love. For instance, I love that the pencils are slightly staggered. It's a lot more like natural, or can pencils be natural? They're not really alive, are they? But you know what I mean. It's a lot more kind of like how you'd actually see pencils. They don't ever perfectly line up. I also love the in these little bits where it goes down, in, you know, the like the triangular bits from sharpening, there's a pearl bump line, which I absolutely love. It's little details like that. And this, I've been having a lot of fun with this. So if I show you the back, is Intarsia knitting, which I've only done once before, but that was over a year ago, and it was only a very small part of a jumper. I guess it was more of a blouse than like, it's not a jumper, it was a blouse. A very small part of like a blouse I was knitting. And so I definitely had some problems with tension, like between colours, when you're like twisting the yarn and swapping over to begin with. And I still have some now, but I'm definitely getting a lot better. But what I have been doing, and this is something I saw Amy from Knee Knits do. She had a problem with one of the summer tops she was knitting this summer where the stitches were loose, so she went through with a tapestry needle and like tightened the stitches by hand. And so I've been doing that to try and even it out. It's worked quite well. The only thing is you just end up going along the row, and so it does a little bit, it can affect the tension across the row, but I think that still looks better than just like one like really baggy stitch at the start. But I haven't really needed to do that so much now. In fact, I've not really been using the tapestry needle at all to alter the stitches. I'm not saying the tension's perfect, but I think it's good enough. And yeah, so eventually when I finish this, oh yeah, I also wanted to mention that I've been using these things. So the first time I did Intarsia, I did really like the technique, but I found that just having the balls of yarn was really difficult to work with. They were just like unraveling constantly. It was hard to like keep them in place, and also they were so big and bulky that it was just a real pain to like knit front and then turn over and knit back and knit front and knit back. So I ended up buying these, which I haven't really used much since actually, because I haven't really done any Intarsia, but I have used them for a couple of other little like crafty projects. But they've worked really well for this. I really do recommend these if you're doing Intarsia with a lighter weight yarn. These, obviously you can see they're quite small. I don't think for like a bulky or a chunky yarn it would work, but definitely this is, I'd say, like light fingering weight, this yarn. So like light fingering would work. Fingering, I don't see why DK wouldn't work, but anything thicker than that, I imagine like you can't, it's just not worth it, because you know the amount of yarn you're getting on this, you'd end up just having to like weave in ends every row or two, which would be a real nightmare. But no, with this one, these work really, really well with such a small, like a finer yarn. So that's like one really big takeaway from this. So I've been winding up several of them at once, and because it's only 10 grams, I've just been winding directly onto this from my Swift, and then I'll just wind the rest of the ball by hand. I haven't bothered using a ball winder because it's only about 5 grams and it doesn't take very long. Even for these bigger ones actually, because I've been winding directly onto this, I've been winding by hand. I haven't used my ball winder at all. But yeah, it's a lovely project. I'm really loving all of these colours. And I even really like, and it's just like, I even really like this like pencil colour. It's got a few, not many, but a few flecks on it. So it does look a bit more, I feel, wood-like, because you've got the odd little like fleck of colour in it, and it's just really, really nice. I've been thinking, because I have so much left. This is a colour I've already used. I've got this much left of this colour, so I do think it's probably going to be about 5 grams. I've been thinking about what I can do with them. I thought it might be nice to do some gloves. And then I remembered there's a pair of gloves I have. I'll insert a picture because I've forgotten to bring it downstairs with me, and Charlie settled on my lap, and I will not disturb this boy. I have some gloves which, admittedly, I mean, they are children's gloves, but an adult bought them, me, so they're now adults' gloves, and I've had compliments on them, and I don't have massively big hands, so I can fit into them quite well. But I'll show you a picture. I got them from Go Outdoors, and they're just like a regular pair of gloves, but they're so cute. They're just like, and I do really love them. I love how cute they are, and I love that when I put them on, they make me happy. I know they're a little childish because they are children's gloves, but I don't care. They make me happy, so I want to wear them. And I've been wanting to knit another pair because this pair are just a really cheap, they were only like £3 or something from Go Outdoors. Really, really cheap pair of gloves. And they're just not holding up very well at all. So I've been wanting to like hand knit a pair so they hold up well. But now I've got loads of little balls of various different colours that I can use for the fingers. And also, if I have enough left, I don't know if I will, the main yarn colour would work quite well as well for just the flat, I guess, for the flat of the hands on the gloves. So that's what I'm thinking about now. We'll see though. We'll see how much yarn I have left over. I can always buy a different yarn for like the flat of the hands, but I'll definitely have enough for the fingers to knit up in different colours. And I can also probably, to be honest, use that yarn for the like embroidery of the little like mouths and eyes and nose and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing for that. And I'm not working really on any other projects at the moment, so I'm not gonna show you anything else. I have, on my last video, I showed you the Victorian cycling sweater, and I am actually working on that, but it looks a real mess. I ripped the turtleneck back, and I've ended up just knit 2 together across the whole of the row because that turtleneck is way too big, and I was just going to do a few. I was just going to knit a few stitches together and leave some the same, but I was like, no, I'll just go across the whole of the row and see how that looks. But I've basically only done a couple of rows and that's it, so there's not really, the progress isn't really worth showing you. I'll show you in the next one, hopefully when it's finished, fingers crossed. And hopefully I'll be able to wear it soon because I am really excited about wearing it. I do think at the moment I have a wrap top, which is my favourite knit I've ever done, but I do think this could become my favourite knit when it is finished. It has favourite knit potential. So now I'm going to move on to acquisitions. I don't have many acquisitions. I don't buy yarn every month, but what I did do is I went into a charity shop, which is a British version of a thrift shop, and I found this jumper, this men's jumper. It's 100% wool, it's extra fine lamb's wool, it's pure new lamb's wool is what it says on the label itself. It does have that, you know, charity shop smell, or I guess maybe in America thrift shop or op shop if you're in Australia, but like, you know, that kind of like charity shop smell. It has that smell. I'm gonna wash the yarn when I've ripped it all out, and hopefully balled it like up skein when I've ripped it all up and got it in skeins. Before I ball it up, I will wash it because it really does have that charity shop smell. And I don't even know exactly what that smell is, but it is this, and I don't even think it's particularly strong. Like, you might not even realise it, but when you go into a charity shop, have a little sniff next time and see if you can tell that, yeah, charity shop smell. Anyway, so I was really lucky because I found 2 of these, exactly the same jumper. So I'm going to be able to rip these out and make another jumper with them, and they were only £4 each, because this was a charity shop that had everything that's £4 or lower, so also a really, really good price. So I spent £8 in total on all of this beautiful wool. It's a really nice mild red colour, and I've already started ripping back the first jumper. I did that yesterday. I've not been feeling very well recently. I don't know what it is, maybe it's just the time of year, but anyway, so I wasn't doing very much yesterday, so I started taking apart the jumper and at the seams and ripping back the yarn, but it's the first time I've done it, so I'll show you the yarn I got from the sleeves. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, as I am, that this is not very much yarn. And these sleeves are quite big. It's an extra large man's jumper. This isn't even the amount of yarn for one sleeve, let alone two sleeves. And you're not wrong to think that, but I really messed up ripping the yarn back. I don't know what I've done, but this is all I've got from it, this itself, and the pattern I want to use is DK weight, so I think I'm going to hold 4 strands together, because this is lace weight. Looking at it, it looks like it's lace weight, so I think holding 4 strands, so I've caked this up so that you've got like 4 strands together, so I can do a test swatch. I haven't steamed this or anything. I had a go at steaming it, but I really don't know what I'm doing. I haven't looked at any videos or anything. I've just kind of like played around and made a real mess and potentially lost a decent chunk of the yarn from the first sweater. And I was winding directly from the sleeves onto the Swift. And so admittedly I did buy the cheapest Swift I could find off of eBay. Maybe that's part of the problem, but like it was just it was quite open to begin with, and it was just getting small. Like the Swift itself was just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and the yarn was getting more and more and more and more compressed. I guess like the pressure of the new, like the yarn being wound onto it was like pushing it in. And then so I knew I had to get it off of the Swift. And I know this is really stupid. I took my Swift and I was gonna like put it upside down and push it against the ground, and then it's got a little like clip thing that you like press to like push it up, exactly like an umbrella, to like open it out. And I put it upside down to push it against the floor, to like press this little thing to push it down to open it out. And of course I'm a real idiot and it all just fell out. It all just fell off. And I lost the end. I lost the yarn end, and I could not find it for ages. I was looking and looking and looking, and I could not find this yarn end. In the end, I found a yarn end, but I don't think it was the yarn end from the outside. I think it was the yarn end from the inside. So as I was trying to, so then I was like, okay, well, I'll try and wind it into a ball off of this like skein. It's not a skein anymore, whatever it is, on this mess. I'll try and wind it into a ball, but it was just getting so tangled, and I was spending so much time unravel, like I was continually having to cut the yarn so that I could weave it through all the various different knots that were being formed. So then I was just winding it onto a little bit of like a small plastic spoon that we got once with some dog food, and I was like, okay, so I'll just wind it onto that, and then it will be easier to weave through, and then later I'll tie it on to the yarn in the to the yarn on the ball winder, and just wind it through like that. But it was not working. And I'm someone that will untie yarn. I will not waste it. I will sit there for hours and untie all the knots if it knots up, which doesn't happen very often these days because I'm much better at looking after my yarn. But oh my God, I don't know what I did, but I ended up giving up, and I wasn't feeling well, and I was like, no, this is too much. So I decided I'd start on the other sleeve and make sure that didn't happen again. We were going to be fine with the second sleeve. So wound it all onto the Swift. Again, it was compressing and getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but that was okay. I was just going to wind it into a ball, but I noticed that it was like almost like completely closed. It wasn't really twirling, like twisting very well at all. So I got my husband to like hold it, and I tried to open the Swift up to like open it up more, to like push the Swift up to open it up more. And again, I don't know what happened, but the same thing happened again. But this time it was still on the Swift. Like, I lost the yarn end, I lost the end again. But this time it was still on the Swift, so I took it off the Swift onto my arm and thought I could try it. Anyway, it didn't work. It's a real mess. This is all I got. And hopefully I don't need it. I'm going to keep that yarn for if I do need it, for the jumper. I'm then going to have to deal with it because I think I'm going to need to hold 4 strands together. We'll see. We'll see. And I have one more acquisition. Now this is exciting. I never before, so this is an advent, a yarn advent, and I've never before got a yarn advent. They've been expensive and intimidating, and I've been like, oh gosh, I don't know. But I've really this year got into hand-dyed yarn. I've been working with it a lot over the summer. It's since I went to the Wonder Wool Festival in Wales, a yarn festival earlier in the year, and I also bought, at the same time, I bought some hand-dyed yarn off of Etsy, so I've been like loving it. So now I've got more experience with hand-dyed yarn. I know it is a type of yarn that I like, and I have invested into this yarn advent calendar. It is, let me get, I've got a little card. Okay, are we done? So it is, you're not going to be able to see this, but I'll insert a picture. It is the 2023 Yarn Advent Kaleidoscope by Wonderful Wool. There is 24 times 20 grams of hand-dyed sock yarn, 2 Advent knitting patterns, tote bag and extra treats. And I also got the one with a full-sized skein as well, 100 gram skein. So I really went for it. I'm super excited about this, to be honest. I am really looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun having an advent calendar. I haven't had an advent calendar for years. And, well, I had a puzzle one a few years ago, but I haven't really had one since. And I haven't really had a proper advent calendar since I was a kid. And there's just so many cute little packages in here. So I will, I think, open them up every day. That's the plan. And it's a fingering weight sock yarn, a regular merino nylon blend, 75-25. So that's good. It will be quite long, like quite hard wearing. I've already got an idea of the pattern actually. I'm thinking of knitting a Battenberg blanket. I saw Nitty Natty, so Natalie from Nitty Natty has earlier on this year been working on the Battenberg blanket, and I think the tiny little granny squares are so cute, and I just absolutely love tiny little cute things. So I'm gonna knit loads of little granny squares. Now I'm not quite sure yet exactly what I'm gonna do with them. I am thinking about knitting a blanket, though I'm not sure because I have pets. I have a dog, I have a cat. They love blankets and they're both grubby. Well, like, not grubby, like they're clean. Charlie's clean and all, but you know what I mean. They'll like take their food and put it on and start eating it on a blanket, and they just don't have any regard for nice things in the way that humans do. And we have a blanket that we use with Charlie quite a lot, and it's just a cheap one, and it gets washed quite a lot because it's just a cheap one. So I don't really know if a nice hand knit blanket is a very good idea for my house, or where I would put it in my house. Possibly I'd put it in, we have a craft room, possibly I'd put it in there because they don't go in there as much, but then I also don't want to spend all that time on a blanket and then shut it away and not use it and have it. Anyway, I don't know. So I thought that I could do a blanket style like cardigan or jumper using the granny squares. That's another alternative, which I might do. It depends how many granny squares I get. But I also, to be honest, I'm not even entirely sure how I want the granny squares to look. And what I mean by that is for the Battenberg blanket, if you look at the picture, there's like a yarn advent, so every other square is a yarn advent, and then there's like a white or an off-white coloured yarn between them. So so I don't know if I want that, because I'll have to buy a lot more yarn if that's the case. I'll have to buy the equivalent of 24 times 20 grams worth of yarn. So that's going to be what, like 4 or 5 skeins? No, it's going to be like 5 skeins or something like that, which could get quite expensive, especially considering how expensive this has been in the first place. I mean, it's not the most expensive advent calendar. That's one of the reasons why I went for this one. It seemed reasonably-ish priced, and it was also a local yarn dyer. The yarn dyer is Welsh, which I thought was nice. But yeah, I guess that's a lot more yarn to buy. There's a lot more money to spend. And I am a student. I mean, I say I go to work, and I do work, but I am a student. I'm a PhD student. So I'm in work, and I work full time, but I don't get paid as well as somebody that's, you know, employed. I am a student, so I have a stipend, and that's what I live off of. And it's just a lot of money. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what I feel like. I will show you now. I won't obviously show you any of the yarn because it's all wrapped up, but it came in this bag came with it, which is quite a useful bag. It's just kind of funny because I have a bag that's exactly the same colour as this that I got from a supplier, a rep, and I opened it up and I was like, why is my protein bag in there? So it's a bag that says, I've actually got it down here. I love it. It says, I heart cells, because I do a lot of tissue culture. But it comes with a couple of patterns. Now I already have a heart set on the Battenberg blanket, so I wasn't going to use either of these. But one of these patterns in particular I do really like. This one's quite a basic one, or at least from the looks of it, it seems quite like a basic one. I'm not sure, to be honest, if I'll ever knit this one up. But this one's really fun. So with your 24 different colours, you have different like stitch patterns. And there are several stitch patterns in here that I've not seen before. So I might do this another time. Maybe with like scraps or something. Or I don't use all of the yarn in the Battenberg blanket and I use some of it for this. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest. Can you tell? Can you tell I don't know what I'm doing? Anyway, yeah, and it also came with a few freebies, which are really cute. Some really cute, a couple of cute stitch markers and a couple of buttons. Ooh! You know there's food in here, don't you? Actually, I don't think you can. It's all like sealed. A little pack of Haribo Star Mix, which I will be eating after this podcast. I did keep these in here purely to show for the podcast. A couple of stickers. They're very cute. They're very nice. And a couple of buttons. Buttons are always useful. I've got plenty of them. I use them a lot. So that's nice. And a couple of stitch markers, which I'm particularly excited by. One of them in particular, this one's quite cute. It's just like, I will take close-up photos of these because I don't know how well you're going to be able to see them on the camera. But this is just a cute little one. But I particularly like this one. It does, to me, look a little bit like a bauble. And then can you see you've got like the loose... I'm shaking it, but you're not going to be able to see, are you? You've got like the loose star glitter inside it. And this one's really, really cute. I'm definitely going to be using this one for my Christmas knitting. I'm afraid my dog has left me because my husband's just come home from the shops. But thank you so much for watching. And please do like and subscribe and let me know if there's any kind of content you are interested in, other than just knitting, for instance, sewing or miniature making content. I like making stuff at 1 to 12 scale and also 1 to 144 scale. Maybe no one cares, maybe no one's interested, but I like cute little things. So there you go. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, bye! Is that the thumbnail? Thank you. Is that a bit of lettuce on you? Why have you got a leaf on you? Oh, yeah, 2 times 8 is 16. Come on, John, you're doing a PhD, you should know that. Okay. Yeah, nothing funnier than laughing at your own jokes. Okay, come on, just come and sit on my lap for a minute. Continuity, Charlie. You've been on my lap the whole episode, come on. Hello, and... oh, hello? Did you think I was talking to you? Is this how a thumbnail works?